Hey, what's up guys? NDFJ here. I know it's been about 2 years, but yeah, so I'm back, kind of, yeah, I'm back. And there's a couple of things I want to get out of the way. That yes, my channel did die, and yes, I do apologise for that. I did post on a couple of videos on a couple of places that I wasn't posting due to my computer breaking, and that I'd be posting as soon as I got that sorted out. It did take a lot longer than expected, but it's all sorted, it's back, and as you can see, it's better than ever. I can actually record in-game footage now, rather than having to rely on an emulator. So I've decided that to kick things back off, because I was sat there and I was watching through all of my old programming tutorials, and I did those back when I was still pretty much learning Lua scripting, so they're not exactly the best scripted, shall I say. So I've decided that I'm going to retouch and start from the beginning again. So you can consider this episode 1 of rebuilding a UI. I'm not going to call it an operating system because it's not in its entirety a full operating system. It doesn't run on its own, it still runs on the Lua on the Lua architecture, so it's just going to be a graphical interface. So with that being said, as you can see, I've already put down a computer and I've set its label to OS PC because somewhere over here in that direction, I think, yeah, in that direction I have another computer set up, but that's my testing computer. That's where I go to run new code and whatever that I just want to test out. So I was playing around on that before I started this recording, and I did get a basic UI setup just to make sure I still knew what I was doing. So I am going to do all of my code out of Computercraft, well, out of Minecraft. I'm going to be using Sublime Text, which is here. As you can see, that's my testing computer. This test, a folder called OS, and computer 1 is the computer I'm going to be using, which is this one. So that being said, let's get to the coding. So first off, there's a couple of things that I'm going to do differently this time. A lot of people were complaining that my tutorials weren't exactly great because I wasn't explaining what I was doing, so for each thing I do now I'm going to annotate, let people know exactly which part of the code does what. So to begin with, I'm going to set this beginning part here as my variables. It's just a quick little title, and then I'm going to come to tables, functions, and then the main code. I'm not going to call it a loop because at some point I'm going to have a loopback function which will deal with error catching and error correcting. So yeah, the main loop will be wrapped into a function tag and used there. So the first variable I want to do, well, I'm going to start everything with local so that any variables I set in here, or any functions I set in here, do not escape the actual program itself. And I'm going to call the startup just for simplicity's sake. I'm going to move it later on, call it whatever, but the first thing I want to do is I want to set the OS version. And this is going to be a string. Now basically what this OS version is going to do is when I'm printing the taskbar, I'm going to have this on the edge of the screen rather than a clock. So yeah, I'm going to put this as alpha 1.0. So there's the OS version. I'll show you later how I'm going to reference that and how I'm actually going to use it. This will also be used for automatic updates when I get my web server back up and running, so yeah. Next thing I want to do is get the width and height of the terminal monitor. So local w, h for width and height is term.get size. Now this will literally just return the value of the amount of pixels in width and the amount of pixels in height, which should be 5119. So yeah, I already know the width, but I'm also going to at another stage be adding in monitors and stuff like that, so you can redirect certain programs to certain monitors, and yeah, so getting the width and height is a good practice. So with that being said, I'll come through and I'll add the stuff as I need it, but I'm going to go for local SLC. A lot of people get confused with this SLC, and for me it's just a easy way of saying selected context. Well, yeah, selected context, so that I can choose which menu screen pops up. So if I click on begin or start or whatever, I'll set the SLC to 1, and the options then will show up. A 0, I won't be able to click on the options, etc, etc. So I'll leave that as that for now. So the tables. The main table I'm going to use will be, obviously it's going to be wrapped in a local again. So the main table I'm going to use will be menu. We'll just call it menu, and we use the squiggly brackets to initiate a table. Now I'm going to be doing this differently to any of my other tutorials, so this is where things get a bit more complicated. Use one of these square brackets and you put your quotations in there. This will be the first entry into the menu. So for the first entry, I'm just going to type in programs. Well, I'm going to put a space, then programs, then that. Yeah. Actually no, that's going to be my third entry. The first entry is just going to be blank, just like that. The second entry is going to be blank again, and I'll show you the reason for this in a minute. So after these, I'm going to put settings, we'll just go for Lua prompt, and finally we'll close it with quit, and we need to make sure these are all spaced correctly. So quit, shut down, log off, and reboot. So these are going to be what's going to come up when you click the begin button. As you can see, these top two are blank. Actually, this bottom one here needs to be 12 spaces. I want to have these all set as 12 spaces so that it gives you a nice little feel. This one here also needs to be at 12 spaces. The top one's fine exactly how it is. So we've got these set up in here. As you can see, there's no closing tags on any of these at the moment, so that you'll just get an error as soon as you try and run this code. So for this top one here, we're going to put that as equal to, and we're going to create another table. We're going to put a table ending semicolon at the end. Now, and here's what you're going to store all the information for. So I like to start off with tcol equals, this is for the text color, and I'm going to put underscore mtext, which I'm going to define up here as local underscore mtext equals 1. Now if you know how the colors API works, you'll know that 1 is equal to the color white. I'm not sure on all the colors, but these are the colors I use most frequently, so I know these. Then you'll put a comma, I believe. Yeah, you'll put a comma. Or will you? Can't remember now. Give me a second, I'll just reference my test page. No, you have to close it. See? It's a good job I have that testing computer. So you have to close that tag. Obviously it'll go to say that's one value in the table, this is the next one that I'm going to put over here. So we'll go for background color, or bcol, and I'm going to underscore and do mback. And I'm going to define this local underscore mback, and I'm going to have this equal to, we'll go with 128, which would be a dark grey. That's always nice to have. Right, next part. So after you've got your text color and background color, you want to set the X and Y coordinates. Now the X coordinate is going to have two values, and I'll explain that in a minute. So we'll go with X equals, and it's going to be 1 because it's starting at the beginning of this screen, and then we're going to go for XX equals, and I'm going to set this to, we'll set this to 7, since it's just going to have the word begin on it. So once you have that set up, you want to come and do your Y value. This is the vertical position on the screen, so what line it's actually on, and obviously it's going to be the first line, so Y equals 1. And then you get the sort of tricky bit. This is where you can put a little bit of code to execute when you click on the actual button. So I'm going to go for cmd equals function and just end that function, and in here there's not going to be any code at all. So from here you can actually just copy and paste all this code that you've just put in here. Well, you can just copy and paste this entire line even. You can just paste it over and over again onto each of these. So once you have that, the only things that I can actually do, well, once you have that, you just have to go through and modify these. So that's going to be 12, that's going to be 12, that's also going to be 12. All these 7s over here are going to be 12. And the reason for that is that's how many characters are in each option. You do it that way for the fact of when you're drawing it to the screen, it'll print that, but you also want the hitboxes to be that size. So Y will be 2 on here, 3, and each one gets an extra Y position. So 10, which, yeah, should be alright. So reboot, this is quite simple, so you'll just go within os.reboot. I believe this 17 is shut down, or log off, yeah, log off, there's no code for that yet, so shut down will also be, well, it'll be os.shutdown. I'm not going to explain those because they're pretty self-explanatory. The next part I'm going to do now will be the quit, which I'll just set this to term.set background color, colors.black, so I'm going to set the background color of the terminal to black, term.set cursor position, set it right to the beginning of the screen again, term.clear, and then as an extra function I'm going to go for b running equals false, and end that. I'm going to come back up to my variables section here. I'm going to set the b running value, which I'm going to set just above the selected content, yeah, that word. So local b running equals true. I'm going to use this for the actual program loop. So while it's set to true, the program will run. When it's set to false, the program will end. Simple, self-explanatory. So Lua prompt, I'm not going to put anything in there yet because that's going to be a sort of, if you know Windows, you'll know this run command here. It's going to be something like that. Settings, blah blah blah, that's all fine. So that'll do for now. So now we have that main table set up. So I'm going to start with the actual beginning functions. So I'm going to go with the local tb underscore draw. This will draw the taskbar local function. Jesus Christ. Right. So this will draw the taskbar. So I'm going to put term.set cursor position 1,1, term.set background color. I like to use 8 for the taskbar, which is just personal preference. Term.set text color 1, term dot clear line. That's also self-explanatory. It's just going to clear the line where the cursor is. It's just going to clear that entire line. And then I'm going to print begin, just like that. So that's all I really want. Actually no, because I've also got the thing on there. So I'm going to go for term dot set cursor position once again, and I'm going to use a math function using math dot floor. I'm going to take the width into there, and I'm going to subtract hash OS_var. So I'm going to subtract the amount of characters in that variable, and I'm going to set that to 1, and then I'm going to print without the quotations OS_var. Now what that will do is it will draw my taskbar. Next part I'm going to do for local draw menu, and I'm going to have this as a function as well. I keep forgetting to put the word function in there. Now what this code is going to do is it's going to draw my actual menu function. It's going to draw this stuff in here. So we're going to need a loop in here, and the loop will be for KV in pairs menu. So for KV, which is, you're not using indexes, you're using table contents. So KV in pairs, pairs just means in this table. So yeah, because each index has its own table assigned to it, you're using K and pairs rather than I and I pairs. Do. So when this is run, it's going to do this for each option in there. So we're going to go with term.set background color, v.bcol, term.set text color, v.tcol. Now what this is doing is the v on here will assign to these here, and the v.tcol will go, we need this index, this parameter. So it's just going to get these parameters out of the actual function here. So v.tcol, and then term.set cursor position, v.x, v.y. And remember I said you're going to need two values. I'll show you why in the next function I'm going to create, which is going to allow you to actually click on the actual buttons, well, the actual options. And then I'm going to print K. Now K is the initial index, which is here. So once things are clicked on, you're going to get this. And actually I need to set this to SLC equals 1. So when that first one is clicked, it's going to be SLC equals 1. The first one just sets it to here. The rest, you're fine with. So that's to draw the menu. Now to actually click on the stuff, it's going to be local function, and I'm going to go with hit menu, just because it makes sense. Actually no, I'm going to go with menu click. Menu click. Now, I'm going to need another loop just like that previous one. So for KV in pairs, menu again, do. I've already explained I've explained how this little function set here goes, so you won't really need me to explain it again. But only this time we're not setting the background color or the text color or whatever, we're running an if. Just out of here, outside of the main loop. Actually no, I'll put it in the loop. So we'll go with local e equals, and we're going to put this in a table. os.pull event. Now this will check for an event on the computer. So a mouse click, a keyboard entry, whatever. If you click your mouse, this will check for it. So local e equals os.pull event. And now we need to run a simple bit of code. Sorry about that noise. So if we go with a if, and I'm just going to end that there. So if the first index in E is equal to mouse underscore click, then obviously there's a cleaner way of doing this. You can fit it all into one line. I just like to separate them so I can add different variables in later. So if the first event is a mouse click, then if the second event, or the second index, is equal to 1, so if it's a left click, then obviously end that as well. If E3 is equal to v dot x, no, is greater than or equal to v dot x, and E3, so if the x position of the click is greater than or equal to the position defined in the table for that selected, well, for that specific entry, and it's less than equal to v dot xx, because we needed to set just how long it is, and E4, which is the y position, is equal to v dot y, then obviously we need to do some code here. And that, so this will be the code that we're going to run here will be v dot cmd, and after that's run, I'm going to come down here, I'm going to put a return true. So with that being done, I'm going to quickly test my code. So in the main code, I'm just going to put a while be running do and end the while loop. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go with if slc is equal to 0, then term dot clear tb underscore draw. Actually I need to set this as term dot. I'm going to create another function. Local clear local function clear, I'm going to go with bcall and tcall. I'm just going to go with bcall. And end this, I'm going to go with term dot set background color and term dot clear. So background color will be colors dot black for now. Oh no, I'm doing that wrong, so bcall. So on here I'm just going to go with just a simple clear colors.black, so it's going to clear it into black. And I'm going to draw the taskbar because I need the taskbar. And I'm going to run the what am I looking for? Yeah, I'm going to run the menu click function. And I'm going to put a sleep in to stop it from yielding, so I'm going to put it on a 0.1. And I'm going to put an else if in here, and I need to end that as well. So else if slc is equal to 1, and I need a double equals there. So if else if slc is equal to 1, then, well, we don't really need to clear. What we do need to do is we need to draw menu. and menu click. We need to get rid of this. So I need to go with another local, actually, just outside of the main code. I'm just going to put a local e equals os dot, in a table, come on now, os dot pull event. So on here I'm going to put just the same code that I used up here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. Yep, I'm just going to copy and paste this into here, like that. But I'm going to set this to 1, and this one to 7, and this one to 1. I'm going to go with an SLC equals 1, menu underscore, no, draw menu. Yep, that should do. And on here, on this else, if I'm going to go with I'm going to put an else over here, SLC equals 0. So yeah, shall we test this code now? And if I've done this all correctly, it should run without an issue. So just reboot the computer, start up 10 unexpected symbol. I apologise for that, but I did write a lot of code. There we go. I forgot the equals to say it equals a table. Apologise. A lot of you are probably shouting at me for that, but yeah. So we have this. Right, I need to set that up so that it actually clears and draws as soon as you boot. But we have this, so now we have the begin. If you click on begin, it's not working. So I need to figure out why that's doing that. Might just be a yielding error, might not. Gonna get rid of that sleep just for now. Alright guys, I'm back. I've figured it out once again. So the issue was this part here. The e equals, I had it set to a local variable when it needs to be a global. So when you're doing stuff like this, I suggest you actually remember if it needs to be local or global. This needs to be a global variable, otherwise you get little errors and stuff like that. So as you can see now, it's actually booting up. It's giving me my taskbar, and if I click begin, it automatically draws the thing. I need to figure out why it's still doing that, but apart from that, we seem to be pretty good. I can obviously click on stuff like quit, and it will take me to the lower prompt again, which will just quit the OS. I can reboot, which reboots, and I can shut down. And those are the only things I've actually put into the operating system so far. But yeah, naturally, that needs a refresh actually. So I need to, I'm going to move this up here. That needs a refresh, so I need to set this to clear colors dot black and TB draw, just so that when you actually run it, if you click somewhere else, it gets rid of the menu. Obviously once the menu's not up, you can't click on the options, and when it is, you can. So, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this massively long episode for once. It's a good way to come back, and yeah, I'll be recording and continuing on with this, adding in advanced features like using the HTTP API to set up automatically downloading backgrounds, and I'm going to be going through I'm not going to recreate it. I'm going to download some IDEs and I don't know, some APIs like the flib API, which was a massive help in my last series, and it's a massive help for anyone that wants to program. Just saves you writing out all the functions yourself. So I'm going to re-download that, modify it to my needs, add in some password encryption. I'm going to use SHA-256. There's a link on Computercraft for it, which I'll be giving all you guys when it actually comes out. Well, when it comes to that part of the tutorial, when I'm actually doing other stuff. I'm going to be adding in drag menus and drag boxes and icons and custom settings, and obviously making it 100% customizable in the true NDFJ spirit. But anyway, I've digressed long enough. I hope you enjoy this episode. Leave it a comment, a rate, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in a bit. Bye!